We've all wanted to know the future at some point. Here's a quick rundown of 50 things that people have used to try and predict the future. Side notes, this is a mere enumeration, not a tutorial. I use the words fortune telling and divination interchangeably as well. Different animals and their behavior were thought to have psychic properties. Cats curling up on the ground meant storms. The cries of mice were a bad omen. Horses stepping with their right forefoot first generally is a good omen. The ancient Roman priests interpreted birdsongs, flight, and eating patterns. A similar practice was employed in ancient Greece. Fishes have also been observed not only through their movements, but also their insides. On that note, there is a whole practice of divination through the inspection of the appearance of animal entrails, done by a diviner called a haruspex. In ancient China, tortoise shells were engraved with questions and heated up to crack, interpreted by a diviner. A similar process is done through the shoulder bones of oxen. Beyond animals, humans have also looked into other things in the natural world to predict things. A vigorous sacrificial fire means something good is coming. Smoke is used as well. A straight one meant good, and the patterns in the remaining ashes and cinders. It can be done similarly with a lamp. 3 lit candles configured in a triangle means success if one of them shines brighter than the other two. The patterns of pebbles, sands, and rocks thrown on the ground were also used in the elaborate process of geomancy. Clouds, weather, and other atmospheric phenomena were thought of as signs for the future. Perhaps one of the most persisting practices would be astrology, using positions of celestial objects for a conjecture. The use of water could be either by observation of its motion or by a similar manner to crystal gazing. Certain melted metals poured into water produces an intricate lump, of which its shadows through a candlelight can be interpreted. Wax is used for a similar practice. A wide variety of objects, both created for that purpose and not, have been linked to divination. Predictions through tarot cards are done through interpretation by a reader. Symbolic meanings are affixed to each card. Playing cards was also used in a similar fashion. Opening a book after asking a question about the future and randomly selecting a passage is believed to answer it. Creases on crumpled paper were read in a similar way one does with palms. The use of paper is also employed in the classic fortune teller origami. The patterns that needles make when submerged in water are read similarly. The quivering of an axe when struck is observed for bad omens. A similar practice was done with thrown arrows and their inclination when they land, as well as the direction that rods and staff fall. The motion of a pendulum as it swings answers yes or no questions. While the crystal ball is thought to reveal the future to a seer who gazes into it, became an iconic figure in magic. Mirrors were also believed to have a similar practice. Sometimes, seeing the future needed no instrument, only the human body. The eyes functioned in a similar fashion to the crystal ball, showing the future. Though practices and interpretations are varied, reading the lines on the palm is a widespread method of seeing someone's fate. A similar process involved the soles of the feet, as well as the lines on the forehead. While fingernails were established to be an indicator of underlying health issues, a divination practice involved observing shapes of the sun's reflection on it. Moles were thought to predict one's destiny, its positions being connected with astrology. The markings, bands, and shape of a navel were used to predict future children. Food was also employed in fortune-telling practices. Shapes and patterns formed by tea leaves on a cup were believed to have symbolisms for the future. The same practice has been applied to coffee grounds. Beans thrown on the ground, similar to geomancy, are also interpreted using their patterns. Salt was used in a similar practice. The shapes formed by an egg cracked in water gave signs and warnings. While fortune cookies persisted until contemporary times, it can be traced to a similar ancient practice. The first of the 2 onions inscribed with yes or no to sprout is the answer to a question asked beforehand. A bay leaf that crackled when burnt was a sign of a good future. Lastly, intangible concepts and other practices include the use of numbers to predict events, despite varying in methods throughout history, generally involves affixing meanings to them. Among the oldest practices was the interpretation of dreams, either through literal or symbolic imagery. Oracles and seers claimed to have visions and prophecies, while necromancers claimed to be able to communicate with the spirits of the dead for predictions.